A promise beyond the trail.
I
Have
didn't
you
know
ever
where else to
received a
go.
message so
It's
unexpected
all in here.
that it changed
About what
everything you
happened.
thought you knew
Please,
about someone?
you have to
A
believe me.
message that arrived long after the person who sent it was gone? That's exactly what happened to me.
Caleb's?
One rainy evening,
He
a
wanted you
year
to
after
have
my
it.
best friend Caleb died, there was a knock on my cabin door. I wasn't expecting visitors. I had spent the day the same way I'd spent most of the past year, trying not to think about the hole his death had left in my life. When I opened the door, I froze. Standing there was Abigail, Caleb's widow. I hadn't seen her in months. Her face looked tired, and her eyes carried the kind of sadness that never completely disappears. In her hands was a worn leather journal. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then, she finally said something that sent a chill through my body. "I need to tell you what Caleb asked of me." My heart started pounding. Caleb had been gone for a year. What could possibly be left to say? I stepped aside and invited her in. The rain tapped softly against the windows as Abigail sat on my couch. She looked around the room and noticed a framed photo of me and Caleb from years ago. We were smiling, holding fishing rods by the river, completely unaware of how quickly life could change. Abigail stared at the picture for a long moment. Then, she looked at me. "He knew," she whispered. "Knew what?" I asked. "He knew there was a chance he wouldn't be here much longer." I felt like the room suddenly became smaller. "What are you talking about?" Abigail placed the journal on the coffee table between us. 3 weeks before the accident, Caleb started writing in this. He asked me to keep it safe, and he made me promise not to show it to you until exactly 1 year after he died. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. 1,000 questions rushed through my mind. Why would Caleb keep something like that from me? Why wait an entire year? Abigail slowly pushed the journal toward me. "You deserve to know the truth." I opened it carefully. The first page was written in Caleb's familiar handwriting. The moment I saw those words, it felt like hearing his voice again. "If you're reading this, Abigail kept her promise." I swallowed hard. As I turned the pages, I discovered thoughts Caleb had never shared with anyone. He wrote about life, about becoming a husband, about the fears he carried in silence, about the dreams he still hoped to accomplish. And then, I found a section with my name at the top. I immediately stopped breathing for a second. Caleb described our friendship in detail. He wrote about the day we met in the Territory High School, how we became inseparable, how we helped each other through heartbreaks, failures, and family struggles. I remembered every moment as if it had happened yesterday. We had been more than friends. We had been brothers. Then came the part that shattered me. Months before his accident, Caleb had been diagnosed with a serious heart condition. Doctors warned him that his future was uncertain. He never told me. Not once. I couldn't understand it. I would have been there for him. I would have done anything. But he chose to carry that burden alone. As I continued reading, I finally understood why. Caleb wrote, "I didn't want people treating me like I was already gone. I wanted my final months to feel normal. I wanted laughter instead of sympathy." Tears filled my eyes. For the first time, I realized how scared he must have been, how lonely, how difficult it must have been pretending everything was okay. Abigail sat quietly across from me. She had clearly carried this secret for a long time. Then, I reached the back of the journal. There was an envelope. My name was written on the front. Just seeing it made my hands shake. I carefully opened it. Inside was a letter. The paper was slightly folded and worn from time. I took a deep breath and started reading. "Brother, if you're reading this, then Abigail has done exactly what I asked. You're probably angry, maybe even hurt, and honestly, you have every right to be. But please understand something. I never kept my condition from you because I didn't trust you. I kept it from you because I knew exactly how much you cared. And I didn't want your final memories of me to be hospital visits and worried conversations. I wanted our friendship to stay exactly as it always was." By this point, tears were running down my face. I kept reading. "You gave me something few people ever experience. A true friend. Someone who showed up when life got hard. Someone who never judged me. Someone who never walked away. Thank you for that. I had to stop for a moment. The room was completely silent. Even the rain outside seemed quieter. Then I continued. But I need one last favor. Take care of Abigail. Not because she needs rescuing, not because she can't survive on her own, but because grief is heavy. Sometimes people don't need solutions. They just need someone who remembers, someone who stays. Promise me, you'll be that person. I lowered the letter. I couldn't speak. Abigail was crying too. For the first time in a year, it felt like Caleb was sitting in that room with us, not as a memory, but as a presence, as someone whose voice was still guiding the people he loved. That night, Abigail and I talked for hours. We shared stories we hadn't told anyone. Funny stories, embarrassing stories, the kind of stories that only exist between people who knew someone deeply. We laughed about Caleb getting lost during a mountain camping trip because he insisted he could read a map. We laughed about the terrible songs he used to sing in the wagon. For the first time since his funeral, laughter returned. And somehow, it didn't feel wrong. It felt necessary. Before Abigail left, she handed me one final item, a photograph. It showed the three of us standing together years earlier at a summer barbecue on the frontier. Caleb had one arm around me and the other around Abigail. We all looked happy, carefree, alive. I turned the picture over. Written on the back were a few simple words. Take care of each other. Life is shorter than we think. I stared at those words for a long time. After Abigail left, I sat alone in my living room. The house was quiet, but for the first time in a year, the silence felt different. I finally understood why Caleb had asked Abigail to wait. Grief changes people. The first year after a loss is often about survival. Every day feels heavy. Every memory hurts. Every reminder reopens the wound. Maybe Caleb knew that. Maybe he knew his message would only be understood after enough time had passed. And he was right, because that night, I wasn't focused on how he died. I was focused on how he lived, on the loyalty he showed, on the love he left behind. Over the next several months, Abigail and I stayed in touch. We checked on each other. We shared memories. We made sure Caleb's name wasn't forgotten. Not because of obligation, not because of a promise, but because people matter. Connections matter. And sometimes, the greatest gift someone leaves behind isn't money or possessions. It's the relationships they build. Today, whenever I look at that photograph, I think about the lesson Caleb taught me. Life is unpredictable. None of us know how much time we have, but we can choose how we spend it. We can choose kindness. We can choose loyalty. We can choose to show up for the people we love. And sometimes, even after we're gone, those choices continue changing lives. Caleb's final request wasn't about the past. It was about the future. A future where the people he cared about would keep moving forward, together. And that's exactly what we did. Because true friendship doesn't end when someone dies. It lives on in the promises we keep, the memories we share, and the lives we continue to touch because of them. The end. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video and share it with someone who means the world to you. Don't forget to subscribe to U.S. Wild West Love Story for more powerful emotional tales from the old frontier. Thank you for listening. And remember, take care of each other.
I reckon every story worth telling starts with a storm and a secret. She brought me this book, soaked through and holding memories we near forgot. We spent hours looking back, feeling the weight of the long trail we walked.
Golden hour paints the horizon's timber, just like the shadows in that frame. Some bonds never fade. Caleb will always be with us forever.